Welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to unpack a truly fascinating and frankly highly polarized journal entry by author Karma Nayak. We're going to dive right into this document, dated June 6th, 2026, which explores his visceral, everyday struggles for survival, right alongside these massive, grandiose socio-political visions. You know, it's a text that swings wildly from the quiet desperation of sitting in a stiflingly hot room, all the way to the epic scale of a full-blown ideological revolution, a revolution that he calls the Vaisharic Ulgulan.
So let's drop straight into Nayak's grueling reality. Picture this scene, okay? It's past 1 a.m., he's absolutely exhausting himself trying to write a book on his phone, but because he literally cannot afford a basic internet data recharge, he's forced to hold his mobile high up in the air, just desperately trying to catch a spotty, weak Wi-Fi signal from his neighbor Raju's house. I mean, it perfectly frames this intimate desperation of a writer who is fighting against immense resource constraints just to get his words out into the world.
All right, let's look at Section 1, the Midnight Rider and his reality in Hiranagapur.
The censoring nightmare he paints here is just intense. He's not writing in some cozy, air-conditioned study. His room is absolutely baking in the severe summer heat, and the ceiling fan, well, it's broken because they can't afford to fix it. He even describes being attacked by what he cleverly calls mosquito syndicates, which forces him to use an old mosquito net that honestly just traps the suffocating heat even further. He notes that he's actually suffered heat stroke in these conditions before, literally collapsing to the floor. And all the while, his disabled brother Vijay is sleeping nearby.
But amidst this massive physical struggle, Nayak takes this fascinating philosophical detour into how he frames his very identity. He compares the English calendar, where, a new day sort of arbitrarily begins at midnight, with the Nichar or Hindu calendar, where the day begins naturally at sunrise. He aligns his own birthday with the Nichar calendar, specifically with the egalitarian, nature-worshipping Karma Puja festival, and he proudly traces the roots of this festival all the way back to the Indus Valley civilization. He points out that his very name, Karma, ties him directly to this ancient communal reverence for nature.
Moving on to Section 2, Struggle for a Drop. The 4 a.m. reality.
The sheer physical toll of his morning routine is staggering. At 4 a.m., his brother wakes him up. The government tap inside their home is practically bone dry, offering barely enough water to even wash the dishes. So, Nayak has to execute this grueling step-by-step routine every single day. He gathers 4 5-liter cans. He binds their plastic handles with soft bed sheets, just to prevent his hands from blistering under the immense weight. And then he carries 20 liters of water up the stairs. And what makes this truly astonishing? He's doing all of this with 3 metal rods implanted in his leg, a condition worsened by a complete lack of medicine and nutritious food. His specific environment only amplifies the struggle. He's surviving in a ruined Soviet-era heavy engineering corporation, or HEC, residential quarter. It's this decaying structure that bakes them in the summer, and get this, during the monsoons, the roof is so compromised that they literally have to use an umbrella while sitting in the bathroom. This physical decay serves as a very tangible, unavoidable symbol of the systemic neglect he feels every single day.
Which brings us to Section 3, the systemic critique, or what he calls Ghulam Ramraj.
Now watch how these personal, daily struggles build into his sweeping political philosophy. Nayak uses these stark mythological terms to describe the extreme inequality gap. He refers to the struggling public as the Shambuka Praja, a marginalized class forced to fight daily for a single drop of drinking water, ironically in a country that's filled with massive rivers. In sharp contrast, he points to the politicians, judges, and presidents in power under what he terms the Ghulam Ramraj, or slave Ramraj. He argues that these officials live in bungalows with so much water they could bathe a whole family of guests in a pond, while the masses are left to practically die of thirst.
And Nayak doesn't spare any side of the political aisle here. He firmly believes that both major political parties, the Congress and the BJP, intentionally maintain poverty, hunger, and illiteracy just to control the masses. He argues that the modern digital India push merely placates the population by handing out cheap rations, like 5 kilos of grain, to keep people pacified, rather than offering true systemic change or allowing the grassroots to achieve actual equality. Now, to be clear, we are simply exploring his viewpoint here, but it is undeniably a profound accusation of systemic oppression.
All right, let's look at Section 4, the Kalki Avatar Vision.
This is where the text pivots, and he makes his most sweeping claim, that he is actually the Kalki avatar, the 10th avatar of Hindu mythology, wielding the two-edged sword of truth. He states that, if given the opportunity, he would enact immediate, miraculous change. He claims he will end poverty instantly, completely eradicate hunger, wipe out illiteracy, and utterly destroy the oppressive Ghulam Ramrej system. He even states that he issued this challenge to the government back in 2012, and he believes they are just too afraid to give him the chance.
So how does he justify this immense, grandiose claim? Well, his reasoning is pretty unique. He argues that past avatars did not write their own books, nor did they experience extreme, ground-level systemic poverty firsthand. Nayak, on the other hand, asserts that his lived experience, being born into deep poverty, directly experiencing severe hunger, lacking medicine, and facing systemic oppression, makes him uniquely qualified. He honestly believes this firsthand suffering gives him the ultimate authority to complete the work that previous avatars left unfinished.
And that leads us straight into Section 5, the literary revolution.
18. This number is incredibly significant to his story, because despite the harrowing conditions we've just covered, the extreme heat, the dry taps, the metal rods in his leg, the total lack of internet, Nayak has somehow managed to write and self-publish 18 revolutionary books.
But his reality captures a deeply tragic irony, doesn't it? He has authored 18 books that are live right now and available to a global audience. Yet, as he notes with very clear frustration, despite billions of potential readers worldwide, he still cannot afford basic nutritious food for himself and his brother. He can't afford his medication, he can't even buy a simple cooling fan to survive the brutal summer heat. It's a really staggering disconnect between his intellectual output and his physical reality.
So, what is the ultimate takeaway for us as viewers? Well, Nayak's journal entry is, at its core, a call to action. He wants people to connect with his Vaicharik Ulgulan, or ideological revolution mission. He invites you to explore his 18 published books, engage directly with his mission, and follow his ongoing socio-political critiques on social media. He is essentially asking the world to read the words he sacrificed so much to write under the faint glow of a neighbor's Wi-Fi.
Which brings us to our final thought today. After exploring Karma Nayak's intense daily reality and his massive ideological visions, we really have to ask, will the voices of the struggling grassroots ever truly break through the towering, entrenched structures of modern systemic power? It's a question that challenges all of us to reflect on the intersection of extreme poverty, systemic critique, and the unstoppable human desire to enact monumental change. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep questioning and keep learning.